Okay, I was blown away by a million things tonight. In fact, it's hard to do this review because I'm almost speechless. But you know what drives me the most nuts? The Wildlings have scouts. They're the single most organized army in the Seven Kingdoms right now. They have scouts and aren't surprised. Welcome to the heart of the stories we tell. My name is Rob, and tonight I will be reviewing Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 5, Eastwatch. Now, going with the naming convention, of course, Eastwatch doesn't show up till the end of the episode, but okay. After last week's pretty amazing look at what warfare looks like with mass destruction weapons, we got some pretty interesting things. Now, people are already making jokes that there was an episode early on in the season 1 where Robert Baratheon said he wouldn't want to meet the Dothraki out in the field. But let's be honest, we now see why. Even notwithstanding the dragon, they were pretty badass. But then you see that she burned people alive. And let's be honest, that is pretty horrifying. But it's also a fist pump moment. Oh yeah, we've been waiting to see dragons. Just wait till we see this burning the army of the dead and the whites and all of that stuff. But at the same time, this episode had something else in mind with what comes after that fist pump. As a book fan, I realize that the show is now dark and full of spoilers, but at the same time, a lot of it is just confirming things we've already guessed at. If this is your first time here, I do Game of Thrones reviews all the time, but I also do theory videos, so hit that subscribe button to see all my content. I have a whole bunch of thought processes of what's coming up in the next couple of weeks, so jump on board now, because I get the feeling that, like the trailer said at the end, winter is here, and there is no more fighting it. It is now a war of fire and ice. But before we get too far in, let's just throw this up there and say, there will be spoilers coming, because I'm going to talk about the episode pretty in-depthly, and this show is pretty messed up, so I put a generic trigger warning for just there's some dark stuff, but this episode actually wasn't really that bad, except for the horrible mutilation at the beginning and the fact that we might have a Mad Queen. For a show that's already full of dead characters, let's be honest, we knew there was no way we were making it through this season without some deaths. But at the same time, I wasn't expecting for Daenerys to start the episode off pretty much going all Mad Queen. She stood up there and was all like, hey, you can either bend the knee or die. Now, I don't think that's really much of a choice, and I agree with what Varys and Tyrion were talking about. I doubt even the most hard and steadfast Daenerys fan wasn't a little eked out by the idea of her wiping out the Tarly family. And let's be honest, as long as Sam's taken the black, which, I don't know what that really means considering how often he breaks rules, this is the end of that family line. And I totally understand they were being stubborn. But being stubborn is kind of like the way people in Westeros work. So, they died pretty much the same way the Stark family died. Remember way back when the Mad King burned the father and the son together. Now, if that's not an analogy for her turning into a Mad Queen, I don't know what is. Now, they did kind of fix that, because she did then try to sugarcoat this to Jon. Hey, look, you killed a bunch of people, I killed a bunch of people. Sometimes you just have to kill a bunch of people. But there was something way more important about that scene that came afterwards anyway, and that's how Drogon reacted. Jon totally had him tamed, and you know why? Because Jon's a Targaryen. So we're going to skip for a minute, because yeah, I should probably be talking about what's going on in Winterfell next, but I'm going to go to the library and Sam. And this could be either the most glossed over important moment in the story, or it could be just the writers having a little fun at our expense. But one of the theories that's been going around, and that obviously Bran is more than hinting at, is that Jon Snow is really a secret Targaryen. But he'd still be a bastard, right? Well, in the library, Sam and Gilly are looking at books, and Gilly reads one. Hey, did you know that this guy totally annulled a marriage to Prince Rhaegar and married him to someone else? Yeah, like Lyanna. Meaning that these three are Stark children. But this one's a friggin' Targaryen. Now, before anyone goes all rightful king here, let's keep in mind that Rhaegar is the prince, but the son, the same son that Dany's the daughter of, so he's the son of the first. I'm not sure how it works hereditarily, and let's be honest, I'm pretty sure neither do Dan and Dave, so there's a question about who actually has the better claim here, although Jon Snow being a Song of Fire and Ice is pretty amazing. And let's be honest, these dragon scenes were totally him showing off how Targaryen he is. But hey, Sam Tarly just kinda totally glosses over it, doesn't know his family's been killed because the Archmaester can't give bad news to his new apprentice, and then takes off breaking yet more rules. Yeah, because he's sick of reading about what great men do, he wants to be a great man. Except what they really need is the knowledge of the Citadel. Ah, okay, sorry. Such a great episode, I don't want to spend a lot of time complaining. Although I will just throw in, the Citadel not believing that Bran sees visions from the Ravens, totally understandable. The fact that they don't believe the dead are walking, not so much. But, either way, let's switch gears for a minute here and talk about someone else going on. Specifically, I'd like to switch us up to the north and what's going on at Winterfell. And yes, Bran is sitting there at the tree and doing his whole I spy through the ravens thing. Which, you know what? I want you to think about that for a minute. Like, how is that, like, not the most badass thing you can see through all the ravens? But remember, he saw things like the whole chaos is a ladder thing, so he also sees things without needing to ride the plants and animals. Maybe he only sees the past that way? I don't know. I don't really understand. But the Maester did send out the ravens, at least. But then that brings up the whole Sansa thing. So, Arya and Sansa have this whole discussion about the fact that Sansa is thinking about betraying Jon, or at the very least, if Jon doesn't come back, setting herself up to be queen in the north. And Arya's all like, you're thinking it right now. You see? Right now. That's what you're thinking. You don't want to be, but you are. And I'm like, Sansa should have been like, look, yeah, I am. There's a lot going on right now. And maybe having a backup plan in case Jon doesn't come back isn't the worst thing. On the other hand, Littlefinger's playing the two of them and thinks that he's going to play them like a fiddle and get Arya to betray Sansa and Sansa to turn on Arya. And of course, there's only one person left in Winterfell that Sansa can turn to trust if and when Arya betrays her. Except why would Arya betray her? I mean, seriously. This is a bad plan. Where's my Tony Stark clip? Anyway. So, on Dragonstone, they're all sitting there, and the Queen Daenerys won't send her forces because it will give Cersei too much. Even though, much like Stannis, who, good old Onion Knight here should have been quoting, I spent too much time trying to keep the Seven Kingdoms when I should have been trying to protect the Seven Kingdoms in order to keep it. But, of course, we didn't get that throwback, because Stannis, even though he was super cool until the end, just doesn't get a lot of respect here. But what we get instead is, what if we treat with Cersei? And I want you to think about that. As much as I say that Dany might be going a little Mad Queen, Cersei is totally the Mad Queen that blew up the Sept with wildfire. And we get this whole, well, we'll talk to Cersei, and we'll just explain to her, the dead are coming. And we get the whole, well, Tyrion can talk to Jaime, even though they didn't exactly leave on the best of terms, although not as bad as they do in the book. And we get Cersei with the whole, well, what would Father do? Fuck if I know. Seriously, what would he do if the dead were walking? I think we're well beyond the, well, in any other circumstance, I'd. But Cersei's ready to betray them. I'm sure I can already see this setup. She's going to be like, hey, why don't you come and we'll treat and we'll talk about this armistice and then try to kill Dany? Because if a younger, more beautiful queen comes and will take away her power, kind of like that whole prophecy, but either way, I do hope that Jaime finally realizes that she's been playing him. Maybe this child is enough to wake him up. Maybe the fact that, yes, he loves Cersei, and, I mean, it's a hard thing, notwithstanding the incest part. If you were madly in love with someone, and that you really thought it was just the two of you against the world, what would it take to turn you against them? It's a hard play. In the books, Jaime's already much farther along than he is in the show, though. And there was part of me that really wanted him in on that last bit of action. But okay, so we have the fact that Dany isn't ready to commit her forces. What they need is proof. Proof that the dead are walking. And Jon brings up, hey, there was a white that came through the wall, so we could do it. And of course, everyone's like, alright, so let's put together our special super task force. And at this point, we're back to fist pumping. Yeah, we're gonna go fight the army of the dead finally. There are those of us that literally only started this story because we heard that it was going to be an epic battle for the entire world against ice zombies and ice necromancers. But at the same time, there's a little something left to be desired here. And we do already know about the fact that they were going north of the wall for this. We got these pictures all from before the season even started. I had my own hope that there would be, like, Jaime and Brienne there, but other than that, I think they got everyone that I was hoping for there. Except for Uncle Benjen. Is Uncle Benjen going to show up? I think so, but we'll see. There are people that are accusing these sorts of scenes of being fan service, to which I say, thank you for servicing me. I am a fan, and I am a fan of this. This is what I've been waiting for. For those of you that subscribe to the idea that it can't just be a fight, I agree. There has to be more to this. In fact, in my theory video where I talk about what this is, I still insist that this has got a lot more in common with Babylon 5 than it does with most epic fantasy. This isn't the war that you want to fight, it's the war you have to fight. The time you have to put everything aside because it's us versus them, and it's not us versus them where it's another country, it's us versus them where they're going to wipe us out, all of us. And Jon has that great line at the end when the Brotherhood is there, and they're all like, well, we're all on the same side. Yeah, we are. How do we know? Because they're breathing. Because that's what this is. The living versus the dead. And I think, finally, they're starting to realize that. Like I said, the trailer even says, next week, da-dum, winter has come. But there's part of me that sits there and says, we still not only have another season to go, but we still have another episode to go after that. So yeah, there's just enough time for this to turn into something else. So many threads that need to be wrapped up, so much going on. And at the same time, I wonder if next week is going to be entirely just north of the wall, or if we're going to finally get the resolution to what's going on in Winterfell as well, or if they're saving that for the season finale. Let's be honest, Bran and Littlefinger are both being manipulators, and Sansa and Arya are not, I don't think, dumb enough to fall for either of it. But there's totally a lot going on here. What did you guys think of tonight's episode? I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, and ideas. I'd also like to hear what you think about these videos. Do you like the way I review Game of Thrones, the way I just pretty much go scene by scene, or would you like a little more in depth? Either way, it would really help out the community and my channel if you liked and shared this video, especially if you gave it a good comment about what you liked or didn't like. And of course, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, enable alerts, because I'm trying to build a community where we can take a look at all of these great stories. And let's be honest, A Song of Fire and Ice is a great story. Game of Thrones is a better than average story. And both of them can bring us deeper into the heart of the stories we tell. Have a good night, and R plus L equals J. Thanks for watching.